everybody. This is Stephen Andrew Bolin, and I have one of my very favorite interviewees yet that I've done. This is Mr. Brian Newman. He is also a published book author as well as a TV personality of the show Let's Talk Shalom. Um, Brian, you're also part of a ministry that's called Psalm 16 Ministries. Do you want to give us a feel for what that's about?
Yeah, Psalm 16 ministry is from Psalm 16, of course. King David is talking about how God carried him through a lot of really difficult things, but there was a good place in the future for him, like in this life and the life to come. And also, because he struggled with a lot of depression. And it also says that even in the night, his heart instructs him. So he's talking about God talking to him in dreams and showing him things in his dreams and being led by the Spirit. And it encapsulates a lot. Part of it is your calling. It's a media and equipping ministry. So media, of course, I write books that are self-published right now. I used to co-host a podcast. I have a TV show. I have a little YouTube channel I don't do much with. I have a blog. So that's the media part. And then the equipping part is to help people find their calling. It's like a lot of times it's through dreams. God talks to us about our calling, what we're supposed to do, the direction we're supposed to go. Sometimes it's through conversations or circumstances, or just when other people recognize we have a gifting at something. So I think God's always trying to instruct us in our hearts, like, this is what I put you on earth for. And some people just don't know how to get there. I didn't know how to get there. So I'll help people find their calling and help them find the resources and the network they need and the resources they need to get that going. Like someone's supposed to feel they're supposed to be a pastor and they're supposed to start a church. Then I know there's resources for that kind of thing, ways to go to Bible school that won't cost you thousands of dollars in multiple years. There are volunteer experiences you can have that help prepare you for pastoring people. And of course, you'd have to know that you are pastoral, and a lot of people that are pastoral don't. Or if they're a teacher, an evangelist, or whatnot, they just don't know. So I help people find their calling and equip them for it. And I also have the media part, which is educational. And there's an online bookstore I have too, where people can find the resources they need. They can order them through an affiliate link, and there's like YouTube videos and organizational links and things like that.
Can you share with us the name of the place where they can go and find your books?
Yes. So Let's Talk Shalom is my ministry hub. That's got like my media ministry on it. Let's Talk Shalom.com. It's also the name of the TV show because I interview people kind of like you're doing now. And then ShalomToYourHeart.com is the resource site. And there's a lot on there for not just educational stuff, but there's also like there's a lot of mental health stuff too. There's a lot of stuff about mental health. There's a lot of stuff about the Jewish roots of Christianity. And there's stuff like if you need help finding the job, if you just got a prison and you don't know how to make a resume and you need to get back in the workforce, or if you're a single parent or if you have a teenager that's struggling with depression. I've got all these kind of resources there for that. So let's talk shalom.com is my ministry homepage, launch page. And shalomtoyourheart.com is the bookstore and library and resource site. But they both link to each other. So you find one, you'll find the other. Let's talk shalom.com and shalomtoyourheart.com.
I'll be honest with you, and I don't mean this just as flattery, but that's truly one of the best ministries I've ever heard of. There's a lot of people out there that try to get into ministry of different kinds, and they have no idea where to start. So a ministry that's actually dedicated to connecting people to those resources and direction, brother, God bless you for that.
Thank you. Oh, it was like 2 years ago when COVID started, and I just felt I was supposed to make it. I mean, I got a Vistaprint. There's like a $20 a month Vistaprint template. And I know nothing about websites. And I spent like 4 or 5 hours a night for like 2 years putting this thing together. It was, whoa, I didn't know what to do with it. I'm like, this doesn't make sense, but okay, because I always give out resources to people. The jobs I've had, I worked at the drug rehab, worked at the halfway house guys got out of prison. I worked in mental health, getting people out of the mental hospital. Now I help people with intellectual developmental disabilities that are grown-ups. All these jobs, or my job was literally to get them resources. So that transferred spiritually easy. It's like, wow, well, you called to do this or that. Here's the website. I spend half a day, like, since I meet somebody, I send them 10 websites. It's like, why don't I just put it all in one place and I can send them one link and they can find it.
So God was literally preparing you before you even knew it. He was training you for that ministry. Hallelujah.
It's like just a reflex. It just, here's the 10 books you need and the 3 websites, and it takes service into people and they don't have Facebook at the time. It's like, if I put it all on a website, maybe that'll help. And I think God was just on me to finish it for like 2 years straight. And especially the mental health stuff and the healing stuff and the practical things. Like there's a part for emergencies, like you're stranded in St. Louis, need to find a homeless shelter. You can go that, or there's a free dentist, or you don't want to make a resume, or your kid has anxiety, but you don't want to go to a secular therapist. Or Focus on the Family has got a helpline. They help you find a local Christian therapist. So it took a lot of time up front, but it saved me a lot of time because I can just send the link out. But if you go to shalomtoyourheart.com, look under calling, there's like evangelism and teaching and apostleship. And these aren't my teachings. I don't actually do a lot of teaching, but there are people that are subject matter experts.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're the subject matter expert, like John Paul Jackson, he taught prophetically gifted people. He taught dream interpretation, other things. So he had a training school called Streams. So I just put the link to Streams. Like if you're gifted in like the revelatory giftings, if you're having dreams and visions and don't know what to do with them, just go to Streams Ministries and they have whole classes for you. So I'll link that and I'll put some of his videos in there because he's the expert. And I'll put books by him or something controversial. Some people don't believe in dreams and visions and the gifts of the Spirit. So there's a little page for them too. Yeah. So like every major issue, I have people that are considered experts on both sides of it. So you can see, if it's not your view, you can see the other side's view and get educated because you can engage with people in a way that may, respectable and educated.
Sure.
Or if that is your view, you can learn more about it. Or if you just don't know, you can see both sides at once from professional people, not some, random guy on Facebook, but people that are actually considered in that field of ministry, like John MacArthur. If you don't believe in the gifts, John MacArthur is probably like, the top professional for you. Right. But if you do believe in the gifts, someone like Chuck Pierce might be the expert in that field. So there's both of them side by side, and you can just get educated. It's like a library. The librarian doesn't tell you what to read. They just supply you with books from people that are knowledgeable. Go ahead.
Now, at the end of this interview, if you'll send me the links to all of your websites and all of that, I will put it in the description of the video so that people can easily access it. I would love to do that for you.
And that'd be great. And what I'll say about the website real quick too is I don't want to just put like theological stuff. Mm-hmm. There's so much need for healing and mental health and relationships and these kind of things on there that no ministries just generally don't touch. They don't even talk about suicide, depression, anxiety, parental alienation, these things. So a lot of it was started out. God wanted me to take care of that first and foremost. He had me doing that first because that's the big need in the body. The rest of it's kind of brain candy, but those things right there, ways for people to find help that are isolated, that don't know how to get help.
Well, and that's so special because you mentioned earlier about King David, and I agree with you. King David was a terribly conflicted man, but if you go through and read some of the Psalms, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, I love King David, but he was very traumatized, and there's parts where he definitely suffers with some kind of mental decapitating thing. So I love that, and I love the story.
Jeremiah, Elijah, almost everybody in the Bible.
God loves to use conflicted people. I mean, that's the way he gets the glory. Look at Moses. Moses was literally the orator of the law and had a speech impediment. Like, God gets the glory that way.
He's walking around with mascara on, and he's an Egyptian. He lives in the Egyptian palace. He's completely shaved. He's wearing eyeliner, and this is not how you picture the giver of the Torah, but that was Moses for this first 40 years.
Many years. Yeah. The thing I find most fascinating about you is that you have been given the gift of dream interpretation. I've heard you've been called by many people a modern day Joseph. And I've actually been in a group with you, the Acts group, about dream interpretation.
Yeah.
And I've witnessed you interpret several dreams, and it felt God-led. How did you, I don't want to say develop it because it's a gift from God, but how did you discover you had that? Okay.
Yeah, it's a gifting and Daniel, it's a gifting and a skill. Like you might be really tall, so you're naturally good at basketball, but you have to develop the skill set that comes along with it. So it's actually kind of both. Like God gave Daniel one and he kind of got educated in the other. And God also educates people. Like we see in the story of the Ark of the Covenant being built, they were slaves 400 years. And there's these two guys, one's a Levite, one's a Danite. God supernaturally gifted them out of nowhere to be able to build the Ark of the Covenant, gold, silver, bronze,
Right.
scarlet, linen, all these things. It takes, 30, 40 years of training to work with. Boom, you guys can do it immediately. And I'm going to give you the gifting to teach other people how to do it. So God's done that to people. He just pick somebody and there you go. There are people that have developed musical savant syndrome where they can't do anything at all with music. One guy was in a coma for 6 months, wakes up, goes to the music store, plays Beethoven, the first time he ever touches the piano. So
Wow.
documented insane stuff like that. So God can just smack somebody with something anytime he wants to. And then but also puts people on their path to develop the character, to handle the gifting, and also develop the skill set and the communication skills to deliver it to people, which are all necessary. But as far as me, I have an interesting upbringing because my mom drug us at church and my dad sold drugs. So it didn't really
Okay.
grow up in church like most people did. I mean, literally someone knocking the door, is that a deacon or is that a Hell's Angel? It's a
Right.
toss up. It really is. And the church he took us to was a small town Baptist church, maybe 100 people. There's no traffic light. It's the backwoods of Tennessee in a Baptist church. So spirit filled prophecy is not any part at all of anything I ever experienced until I was like, she died. I was 14, about 16. The Pentecostal church bought us new clothes and groceries. They paid for us to go to church summer camp for a week. Scared the life out of me. I've never seen anybody speak in tongues. Like, what is going on?
Coming from a
And I just
Baptist
like,
background, that is terrifying. Yeah.
yes, coming from like a half secular, half Baptist background, especially, and all you know about is everybody says the devil. And then it was even scaring the drug dealers. And then so I go to the military, got out of the military. I'm 25, go to Belmont in Nashville. I was studying to be a teacher at the time. And I had these charismatic friends. All of a sudden, I'm walking through campus the first day, and there's this little gazebo. They're all sitting in playing guitar and stuff. And I try to go around because I'm very introverted, believe it or not. So I try to go to the right, get blocked, left, get blocked. I had to go right to the middle of it. And they grab my backpack, say, hey, dude, what's your name? Start talking to me. And when I was in Nashville, all my friends were like very charismatic. And this leads up to the point of, so I go to the church one day. Jim Gall is like the top dream guy in the entire charismatic world. His daughter went to school there. All my friends ran on Jim Gall's daughter. Jim Gall has a church there. All they go to Jim Gall's church. He teaches a class on dreams. I like sat in the lobby. I had no interest whatsoever. This is in 2005. I was like, totally whatever. That's weird. Okay. 2005, still no interest whatsoever. So not even a thought in my head ever to do this. 10 years after that, I started watching 2015, or about 2013, 2014. It's about 10 years. I see some John Paul Jackson videos. Obama was president. Everybody's freaking out. Prepper
What's going
mode.
on?
Everybody's going nuts.
Yep.
All this conspiracy stuff got a hold of everybody. So he had some videos on the coming perfect storm about what's in America's future. I was watching those for like 6 months. Like, okay, that's interesting. I had no idea he did dreams at all. This is apparently what he's known for. And I had
Yeah.
no idea he ever touched dreams until one
Okay.
night I have a dream that freaks me really out, really bad. It's like it was out of nowhere. So it was the dream was meant to carry me through. But in the part of this dream, my youngest daughter, who's in diapers at the time, was in an airport, and she's really tall. She's going to be really tall now, but she's got this purple and blue dress on, like Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, like, Old West boots, dressed like the cowgirl thing, but it's like the blue and
Okay.
purple.
Yeah.
Wearing blue and purple. But the crazy part is this giant Bible. It's like 5 feet wide, huge Bible in her hands, preaching to these people. And then her eyes are totally blue. In real life, they're brown, but blue, like no pupils, no white, just completely blue marble. And one time I've ever seen that was a dog that was blind. And in India, their eyes do that. The tsetse fly gets in their eyeball and it makes them blind. They're totally blue. So in this dream, my daughter's grown and she's got totally blue eyes like a blind person. And there's
Oh,
this
wow.
giant Bible, it's like 5 feet wide. And I think, oh my gosh, she's going to be blind. That book's in Braille. She's going to lose her vision because I'm really bad and nearsighted. It's like, this is terrible. And I'm freaking out for 6 months.
Oh, man.
Freaking out because I know it was dreaming. I'm just like, she's going to be blind. Oh my God, pray she doesn't go blind. And I almost went blind when I was a kid. It's really long story, but it's a miracle I can see.
So
And
you have that in the back of your mind also through this whole
back on mind,
process.
yeah, back on mind, and then the braille and the blue eyes and the whole thing, and I'm just like terrified for 6 months. So that gave me compassion for people that have a dream that
Sure.
really disturbs them, because like Nebuchadnezzar, it's like, hey, this dream, if y'all can't tell me what my dream is, I'm going to kill everybody. And that's what he said. That's what he told his court. Like all these top psychologists, psychiatrists, magicians, illusionists, psychics, tarot card readers, they told all of them, I'm going to kill all of you if you don't tell me what this dream means, including Daniel and Shadrach and Meshach and Abednego.
Yep.
He's going to wipe them out too. And Daniel, they came to kill Daniel. They came to knock on his door and say, "You're right. We're taking you off. We're going to, kill all you guys." He's like, "Let me talk to the king. Let me talk to the captain of the guard. Let me talk to the king and give me time to pray." And Daniel is, "I'm not telling you anything. I don't know. I have no clue what your dream is. But God can tell you. There is a God in heaven, and Yahweh can tell you what your dream means." So, and then you also see Pharaoh, very similar. Pharaoh has a disturbing dream because if a spirit dream, it won't let you rest. It just won't. So it disturbs Pharaoh so much. He's going to kill everybody. He's going to kill all the magicians and all the tarot card readers. He's going to kill everybody, psychologists of the time. And then they pulled Joseph out of prison. And Joseph was kind of how I grew up, but not originally how I grew up. He ended up in jail. He ended up in prison, where he's a Hebrew slave. Egyptians hate Hebrews with a passion.
Very much.
He herded sheep. They hate shepherds with a passion, because shepherds got blamed for kidnappings, for arson, for theft. They got blamed for everything bad under the sun. It's like Jews in Germany in the 1940s. They got blamed for all of it.
They weren't
And
even
he's in
second
prison.
class citizens. They were third class citizens.
They were third class. It's like the Untouchables in India, where they have to eat rats and they can't shop in public or touch other people. And this is what a Hebrew slave would be to an Egyptian, especially the Pharaoh. And they pull him out of jail. And the most powerful man in the world is asking the guy in prison. The Egyptians asking Hebrew, "Hey, what does this mean?" Because no one can tell me. If you don't tell me right, I'll kill you.
Right.
I mean, it was like severe. It wasn't it's not a parlor trick. This is not something you do at parties.
Oh, it was life or
This
death.
was life or death.
Yeah.
Life or death. And also it broke all these social barriers. Like a king doesn't ask a slave for advice. Doesn't happen. An Egyptian doesn't ask a Hebrew. A Babylonian doesn't ask a Jew. Doesn't happen. So, but anyway, so those stories they show me how powerful dreams are, like, how life changing it is. And I learned the hard way how life changing it is, because I went through it, and they gave me compassion for people that have these really troubling dreams. But anyway, going a big long circle. So I watched these John Paul Jackson videos about, what's coming to America, this kind of stuff. And I had that dream. And then one day, after got divorced and was made homeless and this whole thing, I saw that he did a dream interpretation video. It was like 10 minutes. And at the time, it seemed like the most profound thing on earth. Looking back, it's like, oh, that was a really simple dream. But it's like, what if a dog is driving your car? I'm like, what in the world would that mean? A dog's driving your car in a dream. I have no idea.
I wouldn't either.
And it's like, what the crap, dude? Who has this dream? Apparently it's popular.
I ate chili before bed. That would be my guess.
I ate chili before bed, but and that's the assumption everybody has about their dreams. But most 90% of dreams are soul dreams. Mm-hmm. It's your soul, it's your mind, will, and emotion making you have a dream. You watch, some zombie movie, you went to bed. But if it's a God dream, it's going to stick with you for a long time. And like Pharaoh, like Nebuchadnezzar, it's not going to let you rest. Mm-hmm. This is just going to trouble you for weeks.
It's going to torment you until you address it.
Yeah, well, torment's like a spiritual itch. It will torment you till you address it. And I started watching his videos, and he would do one on colors. I'm like, oh, wait, blue. That's the color of revelation. It's the color of friendship and loyalty. But the prophet's a friend of God. So that's who God tells his secrets to. That's who God communicates with. That's who God shares with, is his friend. If you have your eyes, how you see, or this blue in a dream, oh, wait, that's a prophetic gifting. That's a revelatory gifting. That's someone that God communicates with clearly and more often than he would most other people. Because he said about Moses, I talk to most people in a dream and a vision. I talk to Moses face to face.
Yes.
So my daughter's dream, or the dream I had with my daughter, all of a sudden made sense. Oh, wait, she's going to be able to see things spiritually. She's going to be able to have a spiritual perspective to see things because it's eyes, it's blue. And she's not going to be blind, and thank God, and I can quit panicking. But it's 6 months of that, of freaking out. And then the Bible. Oh, she's going to teach the word. And then fast forward years later, her dream is to grow up and make small tiny homes for the homeless. And when she was like 2 or 3 years old, and she was in diapers when we had this dream, she's 2 or 3 years old. We're driving the road. Daddy, Jesus is in the car. Well, I better change the station. I don't think he likes Matchbox 20.
Right.
And she's been other places, like the shadows are reaching for me. It's kind of stuff. So she sees the spirit world. And so
Oh,
that
wow.
was my confirmation too of, oh, that's a real thing. This is real. And in case I need another verification, because I struggled for a year. I'm like, is this God? Is this me?
Right.
Manufacturing thing? I studied mental health and psychology, and I was asleep on my couch like 5 years ago, right when this about a year after that started happening, and I had this dream. There's a little girl, my oldest daughter, is in a hospital, feeding tube, tubes and arms, wires, heart monitor,
Oh, no.
scary, awful stuff. You're a parent, they would rip your heart
Yeah.
out. I'm like, I wake up like, what the heck? My phone is on the table. It is completely off. There's a code to get into it. I have to open Facebook. So it's not just something I read before I went to sleep. While I was sleeping, like an hour before I woke up, my ministry partner at the time had written me. She's in Kentucky, and she knew this lady in Kentucky who's she met 10 years ago, whose grandbaby is in the hospital here in Chattanooga. And this little girl, and she wrote me and said, hey, can you go pray with this little girl? I'm like, okay, I really don't know how to pray over people. That's not my thing. I don't know anything about it. That's really weird. I'm not ordained. I wasn't ordained at the time. Wasn't with the Bible school at the time. It's like, okay, that's not really what I do. But I felt that dream, it's like immediately hit me. Like I started to refuse. No, treat this like you would your daughter. Because in the dream, my daughter was in the hospital bed, all the tubes and stuff. And I wake up and then turn the power on my phone, log into it, go to Facebook messages, ministry partner, open it, and then I see the message that was sent while I was asleep. And I knew immediately, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do, is treat this little girl like I would my own daughter. So at that
Wow.
point, I'm like, okay, this is a real thing. God does talk to people in dreams. And I started having this series of dreams. I went to Perry Stone's the first night they're open, the first day I got Chattanooga. And someone I never met in my life walked right up to me, first person saw in the building, throws his arms around me, and just starts going off about prophecies. And I'm going to start having dreams and this stuff. And sure enough, I started having dreams like crazy. I couldn't keep track of them because God put you to the fire. It's not, oh, here's a nice gift for you. It's you're going to experience what it's like to not have this gift of interpretation or this skill or this education in interpretation. You're going to experience what it's like to have all these dreams, but to not know what they mean. So you're never going to forget what it's like to go through that.
Oh,
So that was like
wow.
a year of my life. And I started studying more and more and more. And it was like I hit a wall. It's like, okay, I've seen every John Paul Jackson video there is. And I still don't know what's going on with my dreams. And then and I had a couple things that were people interpreted them for me that were way off. I'm like, that's just, it almost messed my life up because I'm like, that's not what that means. I found out the hard way what it means. And then where you get 3 or 4 people that conflict in interpretation.
Right.
It's like,
Which
okay,
one's
God's
the
not
Holy
confused.
Spirit?
Which one's the Holy Spirit? And some people started asking me about symbols and this or that. And then over a period of about 2 years, the more I helped other people with it, the more it came to me. Because, the spiritual world's a vacuum, just like physics in the natural world. Nature abhors a vacuum. If you make a vacuum, something's going to fill it. You have a
Yeah.
vase, lid on it, take the lid off, air is going to fill it up. You let air out, more air is going to come in. So
Yeah.
it's a doubling process. You give one unit, if you give one loaf of bread away, you get 2 in return.
Well,
So I
and
started
like
helping the
any
people, then it
spiritual
started coming to
gift,
me.
like any
Yes.
spiritual gift, if you use it for the kingdom, God will bless
Mhm.
you with increase. If you don't use it and use it to build his kingdom, there's a good chance
Yeah.
you'll lose it or you'll never understand it.
Or you'll never experience, you might use it for the world, but you never experience any spiritual benefit from it, or use it for
Right.
the enemy. And that whole year I spent trying to just do mine, I hit a wall. Well, this is aggravating. Like, I got nothing. And then I started helping other people. And then, boom, it started coming when I started helping other people, but not really until then. It's kind of
Wow.
tormenting. I got some compassion. And John Paul Jackson talked about too. I'm not a prophet, and he was very revelatory prophetic, and he made his life's mission to teach other people that had that gifting.
Hmm.
But he lost his gifting for a time.
Oh, wow.
Like he wouldn't have a dream, he wouldn't have a vision, he wouldn't have a worry, he wouldn't have anything. He would just wander around like the rest of us, guessing at what God wanted him to do.
Yeah.
After
And
like
that's a
30 years of
terrible
teaching the
place
whole
to
world,
be.
it's really scary, and a lot of people end up psychics that way, but or charlatans, or on TBN or something. But because God's not talking, but there's such an expectation to manufacture something, to have something, they'll just make it up.
Yeah.
Or they will tap into their soul, or they will tap into another spiritual presence that's still talking to them, even though God isn't. And any kind of spiritual gifting at all, you have to be really careful of that. Sometimes you have to say, I don't know. And there's the gifting, but then there's the stewarding of it. And like Reese Saunders was a guy who was taught by John Paul Jackson. He has a bunch of videos about it's okay to say, I don't know. Or let me pray about this. Or I don't know. Or this is all I've got and I'm sorry. And I think God's going to show you the rest of it. But
Yeah.
he's not going to show me all of it. He's going to show you part of it. And you have to be willing to say, that's all I got, man. And
Well,
theologians are known for having to have an answer all the time. But they mess people up because they just
well,
conjunct.
and there's a lot of stuff in our life that God wants to reveal at a certain time.
Yeah.
And it may not be now. So
Mhm.
don't go around asking all the time, or if you do ask and someone tells you, immediately something because they want to just please you and they want, they think they're doing right, but it wasn't
Yeah.
God's time. So you're not listening to the Holy Spirit. You're, like you said, you're listening to something else, or you're just completely fabricating it.
Or you're accelerating it too. Sometimes you can accelerate something. It's like, oh, I know you're going to be a NASCAR driver one day, talking to your 5-year-old.
Yeah.
Now is not the time to give them the keys, though. This is not the
Right.
time. Not
Right.
yet.
Well, you
And
kind of
when
play
I have an
God
anxiety
when you do
disorder, I
that.
always want the relief of knowing, even though I'm not ready to know.
Yeah. And that's a dangerous place. Now, you're a Torah observer. Do you consider
Mhm.
yourself Christian, or do you consider yourself Hebrew?
I consider myself Christian. I think Hebrew actually is a very broad term for a whole lot of people that were genetically from Abraham, but the Muslims are also from Abraham. The Christians and the Jews and the Muslims all came from Abraham, and they
Yep.
all got lost along the way.
Yep.
Like in Judaism, they add a lot to the Torah
Yes.
or the scriptures. Christianity, not all Christians. There's 55,000 Christian denominations. Like all of them are different, so you have to be very broad. But in general, Christianity has a tendency to take away from the Torah. Judaism has a tendency to add to it, and Islam has a tendency to just totally swap it for something else entirely.
Yeah.
But they were all Hebrew, crossed over children of Abraham genetically. Spiritually, they all left the pagan world
Hmm.
to try to follow one God. So that term is, to me, is very, very, very general. Hebrew could be a whole lot of people.
Okay.
As far as
Well,
Christian goes,
would you
uh,
consider yourself Christian or Messianic?
I would say Messianic because I'm not Jewish that I know of. I mean, if I am, that's great. You get a
Okay.
DNA test. But I wouldn't be Messianic because I'm not Jewish, so I can be a Messianic Jew. Christian, I think that's what the apostles called us. But we have to have that in context, because I just argued with a couple of people. If Peter said, if you suffer as a Christian. Now,
Hmm.
Peter was actually the Jesus himself, Yeshua himself, basically put Peter in charge of the church.
He's
The
my
best we can
favorite
tell.
apostle. He's very human,
Very
like
apostle.
myself.
Yeah, very human. He's very real. He's very authentic. So Jesus himself puts Peter in charge of at least the Jewish church, half of it. And Jesus, Yeshua himself, also appears the Apostle Paul and puts Paul in charge of the Gentile church.
Mhm.
So you're Jewish or you're Gentile, these are your two go-to people.
Yep.
And they both write letters telling the entire church for all of the next however many thousand years how to conduct themselves.
Yep.
And what Peter says is, if you suffer as a Christian, not if you suffer as a Messianic, not if you suffer as a Hebrew, not if you suffer as a whole Bible believer or whatever thing people have concocted, if you suffer as a Christian. Now, Paul also was I think Agrippa said, Paul, in such a short period of time, you're going to persuade me to be a Christian? And Paul's like, yeah, if I could. Paul doesn't argue with him and say, I said, I'm trying to persuade you to be a Nazarene or a Messianic or whatever. And I can read enough Greek. I studied Greek when I was 14. To read the letters and say, I mean, anybody off the street could read the letters and say, well, that says Christian. It is right there in Greek, Christian.
Yeah.
So I do consider myself a Christian. And that's why, because that's what that's what Peter the head of the church for the Jewish people, at least, said that's what he called it. If you suffer as a Christian, so Peter said, not if you suffer because someone else called you a Christian. It's like if you suffer as a Christian. And what the Apostle Paul said is the same thing over and over with Paul. But Paul said, I follow a sect called the Way, and the Way, people who follow the Way were called Christians. So people in America are called Americans.
Yep.
But Christianity is a sect of Judaism.
Yep.
There's the Way or Christianity. There was the Sadducees, the Pharisees, the Essenes, and all the Zealots and the Herodians and Hellenes and all these different groups of Judaism. But Christianity is a sect of Judaism, and the apostles both called us Christians. Now, I don't want to be one to fact check the apostles. I don't get to heaven. Well, Peter, we need to talk about this.
Right.
No, you messed up. And we have to use the Bible definition. It's not the pop culture Western American definition, which shows our ignorance, because we think every Christian in the world is Catholic.
Yeah.
Or Baptist or Presbyterian or whatever. It's like, no, that shows you don't know anything about it to begin with.
Yep.
We believe in Christ as a Messiah. You're Christian. I'm sorry. That's what the Bible says. I don't care what Facebook says, but yes. But
well,
caveat,
I'm kind of the same as you. I just consider myself a Torah observant Christian. I don't claim any denomination. I don't have a denomination. I don't want a denomination. If I had to be put in a denomination, I'm just that. I'm a follower of Jesus, a follower of Yeshua, and that's that. Take me or leave me.
Exactly. And when I came into this whole thing, I was very confused. I was the only non-Jewish person I know. I knew Jews people believe in Messiah. I never met a non-Jew that believed in Messiah and tried to follow the Torah. So am I a Nazarene? Am I Messianic? I struggled. I had no idea what to call myself. But my friend Jeff Young and some other people dug up this old theological term called pronomian. It is not a denomination.
Yeah.
But that's your theology. There's a replacement theology, covenant theology, but pronomian theology means you believe the law still applies. It's pro-law. That's what it means in Greek, pro-law.
Yeah.
So it's pronomian theology. And you can call yourself whatever label, it's like a denomination almost, but your theology, your belief system is pronomian. You're a pronomian Christian. And actually, there's a lot of seminary professors now that are bringing it back. There are pronomian seminary professors like Carmen Imes. I don't think she's Jewish, but she teaches at seminary and she's a Torah keeper. She's a pronomian Christian pronomian theology. And there's a lot of Messianic Jews in seminary now, like Liberty University, I think, has a Messianic Jewish professor. Dallas Seminary has a Messianic Jewish professor. So there's a lot of seminary professors that have pronomian theology. They might be Baptist or Adventist or Worldwide Church of God or whatever. It doesn't. Those denominations don't matter. What it is you're a Christian with pronomian, pro-law theology. You're a pronomian Christian.
Yeah.
And that's not your denomination, your group. That's just your theological perspective. So it's helped me a lot to have that title. And that's what theologians, a Baptist preacher would know what you mean. You could put two and two together.
Well, and it's really nice to have some sort of title to refer to, because my entire life, my father was Torah observant and my mother was a Pentecostal Christian. So I never fit into any box. You know what I mean?
You grew up in both worlds too.
Exactly. Yeah. So
I mean,
it is awesome.
Baptist, good.
No, yeah. So it is awesome to meet another just Torah observant Christian. Like, that's what we are.
Jeff Young, or say David Wilbur, Joshua Inslee. I'm not sure how much Jeff is in the feast and stuff now, but like David Wilbur, he's got a huge ministry. He's a pronomian Christian. He won't refute you if you call him a Christian. He's got a good books out there. He debates theologians all the time. So he's a good model for us, I think, to look at.
But you expressed to me earlier that you've actually stepped away and left the Hebrew movement, not Torah observant, but the Hebrew movement. And I expressed back to you that I have also done the same. I've completely walked away from the Hebrew movement. Do you want to share what led you to that?
Absolutely. You have to look at the fruit of anything. It's like a lot of things look good, like these utopian movements. Communism looked good to a certain generation of people in Russia.
Yeah.
Nazism looked good to a certain generation of people in Germany. And secular humanism look good to a lot of Europeans in the Renaissance. It's things look good up front for a little bit. An idea might look good, but you have to give it time to show its fruit.
And the fruit's not good.
And the fruit is bad. I mean, hear about it, like, that sounds terrific. I mean, Jesus kept the feast. I keep the feast. Jesus kept I keep the Sabbath. This is okay. Y'all sound great. Hebrew roots. Abraham's Hebrew. We're going back to our roots. All lines up.
Yeah.
But the fruit of it, I see, is Paul wasn't an apostle. And then you mentioned earlier, once you get to that point, well, maybe Jesus wasn't divine. And then it's like, well, the book of Jasher says something totally contrary to what Moses said. And I'm really attached to the book of Jasher, even as shady as that whole thing is.
Don't forget to
So at the
discard
end of the day,
Paul.
I've seen people leave the apostles, and then you leave the Messiah, divinity, then you leave the Messiah in general,
Yeah.
and then you go back to Judaism. But then after you go back to Judaism, you abandon the Torah. You're not even a Jew anymore. You're just following conspiracy theories all day and become like a very high functioning paranoid schizophrenic. And that's what happens, because you and the apostles warned about that, like people leaving the faith. Like you cast the one spirit out of somebody, like they might be a hardcore alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
And you cast that alcoholic spirit out. Well, then 7 more come in, and they're all kinds of heretic by the end of it. Because like, oh, I quit becoming an alcoholic. I could not alcoholic or drug addict or anymore. But then take all these religious spirits and all these doctrines of devils, and this whole thing piles up. So that's not everybody. I know thousands of absolutely terrific people in the Hebrew roots movement. I absolutely know they're saved.
Yes.
They're great people. I love them. They're good to me.
And they do show good fruit.
There's a percentage of Christianity that's going to wander off and get crazy.
Yep.
But in the Hebrew roots movement, that percentage is much higher of people that wander off and go crazy. I don't know if it's because they're attracted to the movement or the movement has done that to them. But for either reason, like you have 2% of Christians go totally off the rails, but you might have like 30% of Messianics or 30% of Hebrew roots that totally go off the rails. So the fruit is becoming bad in a lot of ways, and I think it's because we have so much knowledge, so little character. Like the charismatic movement, you had Todd Bentley.
I was going to hit that too.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to hit that. They start chasing knowledge, and I really believe that for many of them, they actually start turning knowledge into their God. And it's not of the Holy Spirit. Whatever they develop over time, it's wicked, because they end up hating the name Jesus. You can't use the name Jesus, or you're a pagan worshiper. The way they talk about Christians, like they're all sun god worshipers. And, I grew up in a God-fearing household. I know that's not the case. So that was a big red flag in my spirit.
Absolutely. Your mom would probably rather take a bullet than bow down in front of the sun.
Absolutely.
She's Pentecostal, right?
A Pentecostal Baptist. She's a Baptist-costal.
You're Baptist-costal. Well, you got Ron Phillips, Alba's house there. They're Baptist-costal.
Yep.
So it's like when Christians were literally murdered by the hundreds of thousands in Rome for not bowing down to the emperor, who was supposed to be the sun god personified.
Yes.
So if they were worshiping the sun, they wouldn't have had a problem doing that. It wouldn't have give up their go get eaten by lions in order to avoid the guy who's supposed to be the sun god.
Right.
Yeah. So this whole thing doesn't make sense. And in a lot of Hebrews, they're not really into that kind of thing, but there is this as a large enough portion of it now.
It's polluting the movement.
That kind of thing. Yeah. There's great people, but they don't believe that kind of craziness, but there's so much, the percentage of lunacy is increasing so much. It's just what it's been known for, and you're guilty by association. Like if I meet a pastor, I have to explain to them, well, I'm Hebrew roots, but I don't believe, and you can only say God's name one way. I don't believe the book of Enoch overrides the Bible. I don't believe Jasher is even part of the Bible. I don't believe the earth is flat. I don't believe Paul was a false apostle, and I don't believe this, that. I have to list 50 things I don't believe. If I have to list 50 things I don't believe in when I say a term, chances are that's not actually me anymore, or that never was me, or this has become something other than what I am.
So you were just describing to me, especially with the sacred namers, and then going into how they get the earth pig from the Latin and the something else. Do you care to go back over that briefly? Because that was really good, and I think that needs to get out there.
So like English is a Germanic language.
Mm-hmm.
So if there was some kind of connection, we would see it, like these closely linked languages. But bald, like no hair in English, you go to Germany, that means soon. Like I'll see you soon, this bald, I'll see you soon. Rot or rot, R-O-T. Here, that's something like wood is rotten, bad. That means red there. It's color red. Spelled the same letters, pronounced the same. A lot of the words are pronounced the same, not wrote, but a lot of the words are pronounced the same, but they're totally different meanings. Especially like the word gift. Like I learned quickly in Germany, you tell the German you give them a gift, they might be very angry because gift means poison.
Oh,
you give them a present. Not good to say you're going to get them a gift. Not a thing. You see like signs like present shop. It doesn't say gift shop, present shop. But the English is a Germanic language, and a lot of the words actually do mean the same. House and mouse and water or doors, pretty much the same word. Sometimes exactly the same word. You just add a letter. Sometimes it is exactly what it looks like. Sometimes it's not. But that's a Germanic language, which we came from. Greek and Latin are entirely 1,000% things different from each other, and they are
Yep.
definitely completely different from a Semitic language like Hebrew, which is Middle Eastern. It's not European. It's not a Romance language. Latin and Hebrew and English are three completely different things.
Yep.
And you can't just take two languages and put them together and make a word.
No.
It just doesn't work that way. But it's like I was saying before, it's like if you've never had any friends from somewhere else, if you've never left the country, if you've never formally learned a language, if you're not bilingual because you grew up in a Hispanic speaking household or something, you'd fall into this stuff. But people that have been around in the language for 10 minutes, just like it doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. Language doesn't work that way. History doesn't work a lot of the ways we claim it does in the Hebrew roots movement. That's just not how history works. Like we talked about before, like some of these copies of the Book of Jasher supposedly floating around is the equivalent of the National Enquirer. But just because someone wrote it down a long time ago doesn't make it true.
Right.
Like 200 years from now, some Chinese archaeologist comes along and says, "Oh, look, Bill Clinton was an alien because it says so in his Weekly World newspaper." Got to be true. And then
Yeah.
you tell all their friends about it, and it doesn't make it true. So that's a big thing. And we talked about witchcraft, and also the sacred namer movement of that's Jewish exorcism, is having to have the secret pronunciation of a name. But linguistically, it doesn't make a lot of sense, and spiritually, because everyone says they got the name directly, but they all contradict each other.
And
And
my
if that's
advice,
a prophecy, we know it's a false prophecy. So,
yeah. And no, that's a great point. And my advice to people who are caught up in the Hebrew movement, especially the Hebrew roots movement, is you can follow Torah and love your Savior and honor God without being part of a movement or a group. You don't need it. And I'm
yeah.
sure that if you're honest with yourself, you've been able to look around and see the tainted fruit. And I'll leave it there. Now I
Can we
just
go
noted.
into the good?
No, what were you saying?
I was going to add a historical point real quick. There were different dialects of Hebrew.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone said it a certain way in Judah and Jerusalem, they would say it a different way probably in Galilee.
Oh,
The
yeah,
Galilean
sure.
accent was so thick, they didn't want them to read the Torah in public in Jerusalem because they felt it was shameful. But you see, like in the war Israel and Judah had, if you said Shibboleth the wrong way, they would kill you.
Right.
Because you're from another team. Like they physically could not pronounce this word. They just couldn't. But the 12 tribes, like Judah and Zebulun, are pronouncing the same word entirely differently in the first century, or even before the first century. The accents are so different, it would be a different word. One says, "Oh, so which is correct? Potato or potato?" Well, that's 2,000 years from now, and there was no tape recorders when it was originally said. And the only two people that knew were the temple priest, the high priest, and his replacement. They both got killed in 70 AD. There's no tape recorders, and Peter and Judas have a totally different dialect from each other. So
Sure.
there's like literally no way to know.
Right.
So that's my little historical insert into that.
And just to connect that for people who may still not have it click yet, it would be the same as taking an American from the Deep South and putting them in the room with someone who speaks English from Scotland. You're going to not really understand each other. You're both speaking English in your own way.
Yeah.
But you're going to say things completely differently.
And then 2,000 years later, there's a written word, and no one knows if you say it the Scottish way, the Irish way, the British way, or the Southern way, or the New York way. No one knows.
Right.
But they're going to choke each other over it.
Now, to move on to the next topic, your show, Let's Talk Shalom, I noticed that you just got an entirely new set. How did that come about? That is so awesome.
So we had a set in Chattanooga at our studio. We were in part of PBS, public broadcasting station. And then it was getting remodeled. So we had to go use one in Knoxville for a while. So this big Jerusalem backdrop we were using when we were filming in Knoxville. We were borrowing someone else's station. Same company, different station. Then we went back to Cleveland. I interviewed some guys in the military. One of them actually just got back from Ukraine. And we just propped something up then. But then Jace Lewis, who was a brilliant film student that does camera work for us, I wanted to interview more than one person at a time. We had 2 chairs before, and there was this couch in the lobby. He just drugged the couch over and put some lighting behind it. And Jay, you can tell he's a filmmaker. He's very, very talented. So he just threw that together. I was filming a whole band, and this lady and her mom both. He's like, "Oh, well, let's do this. All right, we'll just make a new set, like on the spot." And it came out really well. I don't know if you've seen those episodes yet with the couch, but we've switched a lot. There was a Jerusalem one for a while. A lady had a TV show with this big backdrop of Jerusalem, and she left and didn't do a show anymore, and she just left her stuff there. And they're like, "Hey, would you like to use this? Because it's just kind of in the closet."
That
like,
backdrop
okay,
with
great.
the Jerusalem, those are the episodes that I've seen.
Oh, yeah. So the new ones haven't come out yet. So yeah, it was a big backdrop of Jerusalem and these bar stools, because all those little, I promise I'm chubby, but not as chubby as the TV makes me look, because it adds 10 pounds.
Yeah.
And we had originally these little recliners, so everybody's feet are up and everybody looks pregnant. I mean, how thin you are, you will look pregnant in those chairs.
Yeah.
So we have finally got the high top, and the Jerusalem background was up near Knoxville, Gatlinburg, which is like hillbilly Vegas. It's like Las Vegas, but everything's a log cabin.
Right.
It's over in that area of Tennessee, and it's 2 hours away, but we used it for a while. So that was really cool. And this Let's Talk Shalom is, Shalom isn't just the Jewish way of saying howdy. It's a much larger concept of peace, because the Hebrew word picture concept is destroying the authority of chaos. So Shalom is when you're in complete alignment with the Creator's will and with the Creator's people and the Creator's way of living. So let's talk Shalom. Let's have a talk show that talks about things that bring people peace. Like, are you searching for peace? Are you someone that brings peace? I interview people that like run drug rehabs, people that do homeless ministry, people that go to Ukraine and serve as medics, people that do deliverance, people that are marriage counselors, people that are bringing peace to the world, people that are tikkun olam is the Jewish concept, repairing the world. I try to interview people that are repairing the world, and they've repaired the world in a certain way, and they can inspire other people. Like this last person I interviewed, my friend Julie Fletcher. Julie couldn't talk till she was 9 years old. I mean, not one single day could not talk till she was 9 years old. She had severe autism back in the 70s, where no one knew what autism was. Couldn't talk till she was 9. And like 5 years ago, she was a guest speaker at Lee University, which is where Billy Graham went to school. It's down the walking distance from me. But you go from not being able to talk at all, like 8 years old, you can't even say mommy, to I'm a guest speaker at Lee University, where Billy Graham preached, went to seminary. So it was a miracle story.
That is a miracle story. You're not kidding.
I know, and she's got a book about it, and she's a super sweet lady, and her mom's super sweet. But I met them years ago randomly, and it's like, I wonder why I met this person. And then I ended up working with adults who have disabilities in my job, like 2 years after that. And then I also ended up having her on TV. I suddenly have a TV show. So I interview her for that. But hopefully it's going to inspire people that think, well, I've got autism or Asperger's, and this is going to limit me, and I can't progress in my life. Or maybe the kid struggles with that. But imagine your child's 8. At that point, you almost give up. Her mom didn't.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh, wait, she couldn't talk when she was 8, and look at her now. She's married and travels around the country, giving lectures and stuff, and it's amazing. So it's meant to give people hope and to start good conversations. And if you have a certain calling and you don't know what to do with it, maybe someone on my show has that same calling, and they're showing you how to get there. And like in the show website, letstalkshalom.com, there's a part for guests. I've had to add Julie on there soon, but you can see all the guests and a way to contact the guest. Mm-hmm. So like if you connected with someone, or someone has a similar story, or if like, hey, I want to do that too. And I want to start a halfway house. Then if I interview someone at a halfway house, you can reach out to them and get mentored in how to do that.
That is so awesome.
So that's kind of the concept. Yeah.
Now,
and it started out like, let's talk about the feast. And after that, 2 months, it was, okay, let's talk about Shalom. Let's interview people that are doing good things.
Now, how long until these new episodes drop?
We're getting them edited. So the new one with Julie will probably be next month. It'll be on the website, but letstalkshalom.com/episodes. I load them up there. So just keep an eye on it. Okay. But the one with the guy from Ukraine, the guy that fought in Ukraine, should be back as a medic, should be up there soon. Julie's testimony is really great. And my friend Nathaniel here has a band called Tomorrow's End. They're a Christian hard rock band / metal band. That is a Torah keeper.
I
So keep
saw
the
your
Sabbath, keep the feast.
posting on
Yeah,
Facebook about interviewing him, and I was really interested in seeing that one. Is that one up yet?
it's not up yet. It takes a while to edit all, but I'll put you in contact with Nathaniel.
Okay.
And it's Tomorrow's End. Tomorrow with a Z and 7S. Tomorrow's End. And they're a Christian heavy metal band. They're Torah observant. And they have playing cards and comic books and all these evangelism tools they made. Like they have a comic book series where each of the 7 deadly sins is a villain. And they're
What?
like fighting this villain, and it's crazy. And
Oh,
playing
that is
cards, and
awesome.
well, not playing cards, like gaming cards, like Magic the Gathering, but like Christian Torah observant Magic the Gathering
Right.
kind of concept. But it's crazy that the whole comic book's made of different. They're fighting different vices. It's like Larry Boy from VeggieTales, but like a grown-up version. And they
Yeah.
go to rock concerts all over Harlem and California and everywhere. And but the whole things like Creed, is evangelistic. You just don't
Yeah.
notice it right away. But
Right.
yeah, he does that. So I interviewed them and anybody doing cool stuff. But let's talk shalom.com, and you look into episodes, there's the previous ones, and I constantly update it when it's available.
Awesome. Now, you mentioned the word married several times, and I can't help but notice what an incredible catch you are.
Oh, thank you.
You're extremely successful. God's blessing
More chance in
you.
the Chinese phone book. Good.
You have a wall full of degrees. Hey, and don't think lightly of the man fluff, because it's going into the fall and winter months, and that is when we
Yeah.
succeed, my friend. We're
There has to be
high
a cold
priority.
lady around there somewhere. Yeah.
Right. Are you looking to get married? Are you proactively seeking a Mrs. Newman? Like, let's say a beautiful woman sees this interview and she's like, wow, I've got to meet this guy.
Yeah. I had a prophetic word, a lot of those, about what she looks like and where I'll meet her, but hopefully God will lead the way. But yeah, definitely that is an essential for my life. I'm in a custody battle. I have custody court in 2 weeks.
Mhm.
So I might have my 9-year-old and 12-year-old girl, 2 girls. I might have full custody all of a sudden.
So a successful,
And
charming man that comes with a family pre-made.
with a family, yes. Trying to learn how to cook without burning the house down. And but it's been a lifelong goal. My master's degree is human services, emphasis marriage and family.
Mhm.
So marriage is something I'm very passionate about, healthy marriages. So definitely, if you're gonna be a successful marriage counselor, you need a successful marriage.
Yes.
And I've always been just a true romantic. It's just since the day I was born. I wonder who my wife is.
I'm
I
the
spent like 10
same.
years reading marriage books in the military. It's like, it's just who I am, what I do. It's like, this is the thing in life. I want to be a successful father and a successful husband. And
Yeah.
this is the two things, and a successful minister. Those are the 3 jobs in life you can't fail at. If my career plummets, if it never takes off the ground, it's fine. But, I can't fail at being a dad and I can't fail at being a husband. And,
Right.
But marriage is kind of a huge part of the ministry I'm supposed to have, I think. And it's not something you can just speculate on. You have to live it out.
Right.
So I am definitely 100% looking. I started a singles group several years ago called Hebrew Hearts back in 2015, and
That was
I
your
haven't been in the
group?
group in a year. Yeah, I started it.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
So about 2 years ago, the last I heard, it's 2020. I went to the 100th wedding, and then there's been 100 or 200 more since then. But
Oh,
Hebrew
bro, that's
Hearts
cool.
was a Facebook group I started, and I was very isolated. I was in Georgia. My ex-wife lived, and I was just very, very isolated. I didn't have a car at the time. Even I was walking everywhere. It's like totally hopeless for ever finding a spouse, or even making Torah observing friends.
Yeah.
But I kept meeting people on Facebook in that same situation. Same situation. Everybody's lonely. Psalm 68:5 says He places the lonely in homes. Like Psalm 16 and Psalm 68:5 are my 2 big verses. And everybody was the only single in their congregation, over and over and over. So I started this Facebook group, like, oh, maybe we're all single, we'll all just be in the same group and we can just gripe about being single. And I felt I was supposed to start. I got really frustrated one night. It's like, God, what do you want me to do about this? I can't help me. Can I help these other people somehow? I don't know how I could. I don't have $20,000 to start another eHarmony or something.
Right.
And I just make a Facebook group. Okay. I made a Facebook group, and then and it was okay for a bit, but people like Michelle Noel from Michigan started our first retreat, and then Jamie Valenzuela and Misty Dawn Bray and all these other, Misty Dittman. Misty Bray is my friend too. Misty Dittman and Jamie Valenzuela and Michelle Noel and all these people came along and just made it what I could never make it. They started having regional meetings, like everybody within a 5-hour range on Labor Day, the 3-day weekend, we're going to rent this campsite, and y'all all show up and bring some food and bring the kids if you like, and we're just going to hang out because we're all single and we're all Torah observants. We're just going to do fun stuff together. It's not a lecture. It's not a conference. It's not a meet and greet.
It's
not
fellowship.
speed dating. Let's just fellowship because we're all in the same unique situation. And they started having those all over the country. And they started having Purim balls with some people in North Carolina, the Cardins that are great, and started teaming up with, because there's a worship conference going on. Let's all get an Airbnb there and share it. And Jamie and Misty would coordinate all that. So people started meeting in person. And then they all knew each other on Facebook, but they also knew each other's friends and families. And if you didn't know somebody directly, you knew everybody else that knew them.
Right.
So it really facilitated that community growth of like, well, I don't know you yet, but I know I can ask 30 people about you and know you really well. And then it helps build that sense of safety.
The networking in the Hebrew communities, I do have to take my hat off to them. I don't think anybody networks like they do in the Torah communities.
Absolutely, because you have to. You're isolated. And I actually wrote a book on courtship. It's one of the books. It's it's Redeemed, Notes in the Book of Ruth on Courtship in the Broken World. But look up Redeemed and Courtship. You'll probably find it. It's on the website.
Okay.
It's a commentary on Ruth. It's a verse-by-verse commentary on Ruth and how you apply it to the modern world, because it's not I kiss dating goodbye. Like, it's for people that didn't grow up in church, that weren't homeschooled, never watched VeggieTales. This is, people that are divorced, or, you've been through stuff. You didn't get saved till you're 30, or, people that didn't have it easy, and people that grow up in church, and especially people that don't have that kind of community,
right?
Where you don't have your pastors introducing you to their cousins. It's not. We don't have that.
No, we don't.
So it's like Ruth was in a situation that was not good. It was survival. She was basically a migrant worker dropped off in the middle of Texas, and handsome guy owns a ranch wants to, take her to dinner. It was not the ideal Christian homeschool setup. So this is a book for the rest of us.
Okay.
About how you find a mate in a sane way in a broken world. But it's a Redeemed. It's on the websites.
I had a similar experience as you did. When I first found out, I always knew that I was obedient to the Old Testament laws, but up until it was like 2018, 2019, I had never even heard the word Torah. I just knew it as biblical obedience. And when I first discovered the Hebrew community going on, I was like, man, I didn't even know that they had those communities on Facebook. So I felt like God led me to start a group. It ended up developing into the Set Apart Y'all Loving Bereans. And it's developed into something else now. But in like a matter of 3 months, God grew it to 1,000 members, and it took off. I've since resigned from it. I have a lot of other stuff going on, but they're doing a great job over there. And, those networks of Hebrew communities and Messianics, it is important because, like you said, for a Torah observer, you can't just start going to a Pentecostal church and hope the pastor introduces you to a cousin. A lot of times they look at us like, sometimes like we got the plague and we're trying to teach bondage. And I mean, that's not it. Jesus is definitely the root of salvation. For me, my Torah observant is the fruit of my salvation.
And we have to have more than just arguments.
Yes.
Like new groups, it's not like just, let's get on Facebook, argue with each other. Like I saw on the Kentucky Torah Fellowship tonight, some ladies moving in a week and looking for someone local to help her unpack the moving van. We got to show up for each other in a real life. And that's the thing, is like they're finally getting that sense of community. And everybody talks about community for years, but community is more than arguing with people. It's showing up for each other. And I've gone this custody battle. I've had a lot of people in the Hebrew roots I'm friends with really show up to help me out in a whole lot of ways. The Christian community and the Hebrew roots community, it went above and beyond helping me do a lot of stuff. And I like what they did. Like I just started as a Facebook group, Hebrew Hearts, but like Jamie and Misty and other admins made it a community because they actually got people together in person,
right,
to help each other, to fellowship. I mean, one of the admins, Daniel, we had somebody in crisis in Texas. He drove like 5 hours one way just to go check on the girl.
Well, and that's the point of godly community. Somebody plants the seed, somebody else ends up watering the seed, and somebody reaps the harvest. I mean, that's Everybody has their role that God uses. I have a
Exactly. So
question
I'm glad
for you.
you're a community builder too. Good.
Yeah, that's me. I start the community and then God moves me on somewhere else. But I'm okay with
And
that.
that's the
Wherever He
apostolic
uses
gifting.
me.
And that's part of the apostolic gifting is you have the idea and you start it. It's like a franchise. You set the
Yeah,
franchise up, but you leave someone else to do the milkshake, someone else to do the fries, someone else to the cash register, and you move to another state and you do it all over again. Then you move around. You check on them occasionally. Like I left Hebrew Hearts a couple years ago, but I let the admins in charge. Like y'all do it. But I think you have the apostolic gifting where you start things and
I
you're a planter. You're a planter.
I would say that definitely aligns with my life experience, certainly. This is my favorite question to ask people. I try to
Okay.
ask everybody I've interviewed, what is your favorite Bible translation?
Hmm. It depends on what stage people at. If you're
Well,
gonna buy someone a Bible, or for
uh-huh,
me, or just
for you personally, like what
okay,
is your
yeah, for me personally.
go-to preferred weapon of battle?
So I had three I like. There's a complete Jewish Bible. Someone, actually a Jewish lady didn't believe in Jesus, gave it to me. There's a
I love
complete
that
Jewish
Bible.
Bible. Yeah, it's really good, but a lot of it's like half Yiddish, and I'm like, I understand Yiddish because I've never met a
Yeah.
Jewish person till 24. But it was like a good deep dive. I had to look a lot of it up. So a complete Jewish Bible, someone grew up Jewish, is great.
Yeah.
Now, if you're someone that's totally Christian, I like the English Standard Version because there's one reason. If it says anomia or antinomian, which means lawlessness or against the law, it actually translates it as that. Like in 2 Peter 3:69, it talks about lawless men come to church. Some translations, oh, wicked men, unrighteous men. I know it says in ESV, English Standard Version, lawless men, men without the law of God. It clearly translates it correctly every single time.
That's cool.
And I love that phrase. Now I kind of moved on to a miracle story, my Tree of Life Bible. So enough Hebraic to be accurate,
Yeah.
to be historically, linguistically accurate, but it's still understandable. And of course, no one spoke Yiddish in the Bible; it didn't exist yet.
Right.
But so this is the Hebrew is actually used, and it's historically accurate, and it's not overboard with it. Like sometimes in the Bible, it's numbers. It says trumpets, and those are actually literally silver, Louis Armstrong trumpets, almost without the buttons. And then sometimes it's a shofar, so it doesn't try to superimpose a shofar on everything.
Yeah.
It's just a trumpet, silver metal trumpet. And over here in Revelation, that's actually a shofar, probably. So
Yeah.
it actually says shofar, but it's English, it's understandable, but it's enough terminology that you get the term. You get like that's not a candlestand, that's a menorah.
Right.
So I love that about it. And I actually saw a interview with the lady who and her husband made the Tree of Life version of the Bible, and
The
there's
Lassards?
I think it's the Lassards is a different lady, a very Jewish name, but they were interviewing her, and there's a pastor named totally drawing a blank, but Robert Morris, huge mega church pastor. His Christian Pentecostal pastor, you probably know Robert Morris,
Yeah.
but his church paid for like a fourth of the translation because they got so behind. It's like, wow, Jesus is Jewish, and it's really important people to know and understand this, and we're just supposed to help with this. They paid like 1/4 of the cost of having it printed.
Wow.
They had a whole interview with him and her. So these Christian churches were getting behind the Tree of Life version because they wanted Christians to understand it and Jews to understand it.
I actually have one of the Holy Scriptures Tree of Life Bibles up here right now. I was blessed with the opportunity to meet the Lassards. Mr. Lassard was one of the senior editors for it, so that's a really cool connection.
Yeah, it was amazing. I saw it like 3 days ago too.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
It was like on some late night Christian channel.
All right. I also like to cross-reference though with the King James Bible, but my everyday Bible is the NASB. That's my favorite rendering of the translation.
It's a little more poetic.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have problems because we don't understand foreign language in a sense. Like the Amplified will give you the emphatic sense, like exclamation marks. There's a verb tense for that in Greek that's not just saying open the door. It's like open the door now, like the police are banging on it, is a different concept than just not tap, tap, tap. Like in Revelation, it says he's knocking on the door of your heart. The Greek sense, the emphatic sense, is a battering ram. It's not tap, tap, tap. Like you're going to miss it. Oh, Jesus was knocking on my heart, and I didn't know it, and I went to hell. So I know it's a battering ram. This is not something you're going to miss. And that whole Hebraic concept, Hebrew roots concept going on now is, well, no one's actually saved yet. And it's like, well, that's because you don't understand Greek. Because it goes, I don't know a lot of Greek grammar, but there's a concept in Greek of something that started in the past and that's continuing. It started in the past, ended in the past is one verb tense. It started in the past and it's still going on is another thing. But like the NS Amplified, maybe NSAB draws that out a little more than just reading it in English. You get a more of a concept of the flavor of it.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And also you have the problem where there are words and phrases and thoughts that are in Greek and Latin that just don't translate to English. So it's the best guess, truthfully,
And there's no right or wrong. It's just there's no way of saying that. I studied ninjutsu for a while, and there's one word in Japanese has like a 2-page meaning in English because we don't think like samurai. So it takes like paragraphs to explain this thing to us because there's just not a word,
Do you have a favorite book of the Bible and a favorite verse? And the verse doesn't have to be in that book.
Yeah. Ooh, I like math as far as New Testament goes. I like Matthew because you get the Jewish concept. These are rabbis. Rabbi Jesus is arguing with other rabbis the entirety of Matthew. So you get the intention of the Torah. I really like Azariah, somebody I connected with a lot. In the book of Ezra, they're in Babylon 70 years. They come back to Jerusalem, which is out in the woods at this point. So these people lived in metropolitan Babylon, lived in New York 70 years. All of a sudden, they live out in the woods, and they're Jewish again, and they don't know what to do. So they find a copy of the Bible, and Azariah has to give them the meaning of the law. Like it's read to them, and they don't know if it's read in Aramaic. So it's read in Hebrew, but they only speak Aramaic, which is Babylonian, or if they literally don't know how to do that. So keep the Feast of Tabernacles. And it's like, what? Round the corners of your field. I'm like, what? I'm not a farmer. I don't even know how to make a field. So he had to tell them they had lost the Bible. It's a very ancient, strange, weird thing to them. And he had to explain to them and Nehemiah and Ezra how to do it in their modern context, in their modern cultural geographic context. And I really loved that. And I always thought that's part of my calling was like something like that. Give the people the meaning of the Torah. And when I was 14, my mom passed away, and my 8th grade teacher gave me a Bible in English. And my mom's Baptist preacher gave me a Bible. It was New Testament. It's Greek on one side, English on the other. And I just started studying Revelation for some reason. I was fascinated with it. So Revelation was my big favorite book for a really long time because I was trying to teach myself these Greek words using that. But it was fascinating. And then, of course, now the story of Daniel really interests me and Joseph because of the dreams.
Do you have a favorite Bible verse? One that's really touched you? One that maybe helped you in the faith?
So Psalm 68:5 is a recent one. It says he places the lonely in homes, but the rebellious live in the sun-scorched land. So my mom died when I was 14, my dad died when I was 20, almost everybody else died along the way. And I'm like, what the crap, God? Life's hard enough. You keep taking people from me. Been single for like 8 years now, like as a not married single. And you didn't see my kids almost a year. I mean, this whole thing has been really traumatic, but he places the lonely in homes, which is like, wow, you're talking about groups he made and the singles group. And that's one of the purpose of God. What his character is to place the lonely in homes. And then so the hospitality is one of the biggest missions we could ever have, one of the best gifts you could ever have, the best thing you ever do is help lonely people find home and community. So that's I took that as like a mission statement for a long time. And then Psalm 16, we talked about, even in the night my heart instructs me. King David's talking about God talking to him in dreams. And on Psalm 68 too, the rebellious live in the sun-scorched land. So I think a lot of times we are isolated because we're rebellious. So we're bitter with people, we're angry with them, we're just finding ways to divide, and we bring our loneliness on ourselves. And Matthew 5:17-19 is a favorite because it talks about he who keeps and teaches even the least of the commandments be called grace the kingdom of heaven. But he who fails to keep and fails to teach the least commandments be the least of the kingdom of heaven. Everyone's in heaven, but you don't want to be the janitor for 1,000 years.
Right. Yes. And
And it's
that's the
also
understanding that I have too, with a lot of the Hebrews, they don't even believe that Christians are going to heaven. And I'll point out
mhm,
that
yeah,
portion of scripture and I'm like, well, wait a minute, if they're least in the kingdom, they're in the kingdom. So obviously, no matter what your opinion on them are or is,
mhm,
they
they
made
are
it.
there.
They're there. They're
And the
God's
least
people.
what and which is the least of the commandment? It's the one you don't like. It doesn't say which one's the least overall. It's just to you personally, which is the least, the one you don't understand, the one you don't like, and for that's different for every person. And Isaiah 58, I love that chapter because half of it's about Gentiles keeping the Sabbath being blessed. God will promise us to bless Gentiles to keep the Sabbath. There's no expiration date on that. But
Yes.
also, he also talks about if you're going to fast on Yom Kippur, for example, you need to feed the poor and quit gossiping and quit taking advantage of people who work for you. Otherwise, you didn't
Mm,
do yourself any good. So it covers both the heavier matters of the law and the less weighty matters of the law. But it is something for Jews and Christians. Like, evangelicals want to do half of it, and not the other half. And Hebrew people want to do half sometimes, not the other half of that. So, but it gets
right.
everybody. And I guess finally, Isaiah chapter 57, verse 1, since so many people passed away in my life, it says, the righteous perish, but no one takes it to heart. That the righteous perish to spare them the evil of days ahead. So it's like if someone had lived to be 70 instead of 40, they could have had cancer for 30 years. And that'd be terrible. Or they could
Yeah.
see their grandchildren do all kinds of crazy things that would break their heart. Or if you're very patriotic and you watch your whole country just go to crap,
Right.
that's going to be heartbreaking for you. So it's an act of mercy if someone's taken early sometimes. So it's
Yes.
Isaiah chapter 57, verse 1. And that's why I posted on Facebook a lot. If someone passes away, like if I'm going to give someone words, I'm going to give them the best words I can.
Yeah.
And that's the best perspective. Best I can do is give them perspective is sometimes it's an act of mercy because they've lived longer. We don't know what they would have went through.
Yeah. And just to confirm that, and this isn't something that I've really shared with anybody,
Mhm.
but my dad passed away last year from COVID. And
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's a blessing for the exact reason you're saying, because he was Torah observant my whole life and most of his life, I believe, and he had got into that Paul false apostle stuff himself,
Oh,
and I've seen so many people start there and lead
hmm.
into eventually denying Messiah, denying Jesus Christ. And a big part of me wonders if that was God's act of mercy to just quit while he was ahead.
Yeah, because before you lose the rewards you've accumulated, or you
Right.
just totally reject the Messiah, and I don't know about losing your salvation or not, but you definitely start losing reward and having more things to answer for. So maybe it's better to miss out on 10 years than to have to suffer loss for millions of years.
Yes.
But we
Um,
mourn for those left behind.
I've got 5 minutes left, and I want to know, how are you handling all your new success? The TV show, the podcast, it sounds like is on hold for now, but I would
Yeah.
love to see what turns out with that. But how are you handling it all?
I make pretty much $0 yeah, but so it keeps me humble. I had to have a miracle just to pay my phone bill. I had to pay my lawyer for this custody battle like $10,000, and I am very financially drowning. So sometimes it makes me really bitter. It's like I've got all this going on, but like trying to, it's a miracle literally to pay your phone bill or get a spare tire or these things. So I think that it's been a lifelong struggle. I grew up desperately poor. We had to pick up trash off the side of the road, to turn it in to recycle to buy school clothes.
Yeah.
So it's been a lifelong struggle with poverty, and I don't know that there's this Paul's thorn in the flesh kind of situation where if you had
God.
money, I'd really cocky and unbearable, Brian, or if it's just the thing's going to change eventually. But that really does keep you in perspective. And I'm like a big hit on Facebook in ways, but in person, I am unbearably awkward, and it keeps me humble too. So I'm overweight. I got a thin bald spot. I got bad teeth, and I'm just extremely awkward. And after about 10 minutes of being in the crowd, I was like, I gotta get out of here. I'm
you,
overwhelmed.
you know
So
what,
I
brother?
think
I
that
I
keeps
can
me,
totally
yeah.
I can totally relate to you, because I made the mistake in my teenage years at youth one night of praying that God would always keep me humble. And boy, has he,
Over and
I
over.
should have asked for an expiration date, but I was young, dumb, and just didn't think about it. So,
Can we revisit that conversation back
while
then,
we
God?
still have while we still have time, is
Yeah.
there a place where people can tithe if they want? God puts it on their heart to tithe to you, or they want to bless you. Is there a place they can
donate,
put that to you?
Absolutely. If they want to donate some kind of way, letstalkshalom.com. My PayPal's on there. If they know me on Facebook, we interact. I have like 3 Facebooks. The one I actually use is me in a black polo shirt. If they want to send something on Facebook or go to the website, use PayPal or Cash App it. There's my phone numbers on there. Or if they want to mail it in the P.O. box, anything at all is very much appreciated. And if I've got court in 2 weeks with my girls because it's filing for full custody. And it's very expensive, and also contempt of court charges for someone keeping away from me for a year.
Yeah.
If it's a donation, if it's a tithe, if it's a blessing, whatever they want to call it, it's very much appreciated. And I do take a percentage of whatever comes in, and I pass that on. The tithe to someone in a lot of need that's been verified. So it's like 10% of that will go to that. And also, if you order Redeem, 10% of that goes to New Reality International, which is in orphanage in Haiti.
Mm-hmm.
And also, if you order Audio Poetry, my other book, 100% of that goes to a charity. So all those are ways to contribute.
Now, and I am
Shalom.com or shalomtoyourheart.com.
Now, I promised if you send me all of those links, I will put them in the description to make it even simpler for people, because I would love for them to bless you abundantly in that way. We've got 1 minute and 30 seconds left, so we'll try to make this a quick one. But you mentioned that you were given the description of the future Mrs. Newman. And just in case she's out there watching this, I want to help get you guys together. Could you kind of give us a brief description?
So I am told she has dark hair, and she's somehow connected to Florida. But we'll see if that was God or not. But that's what I've been told. Not that she lives in Florida, but probably from there originally or has some strong connections to it.
Okay.
But me personally, I really, if I have a choice in the matter, I really, really value a good heart. Like someone's kind, generous, someone loves kids, someone's creative. Like, and it doesn't be creative the standard ways. Like, I mean, if they paint, if they draw, if they do photography, if they cook, I mean, just that creative spirit in some kind of way, just even the way they dress. So kindness, generosity, humility's big, compassion, hospitality, and those are my big items. I think those are things I want. Those are qualities I want my girls to emulate, and they have to love God and not be over the top religious about it, but just committed to something bigger than herself, like God.
Not have a religion, but have a relationship.
Absolutely, and have a commitment to taking care of other people